I have a great respect for many martial arts masters, grandmasters, and especially pioneers and innovators. And I would never disrespect anyone. However, I am entitled, as are you watching, your viewpoint on any subject, not just simply martial arts. But in this regard, someone, maybe a few someones, have said in the past that I've disrespected individuals. What does that mean, disrespect? One person even told me that I was slandering a martial arts master. That doesn't sit right with me. To slander someone basically is to basically not tell the truth. To tell lies or falsehoods about someone, things that are not true, giving them a certain look in the public's eye of being someone who's illegitimate, not worthy of their calling, not worthy of their accomplishments, and so forth. I can't slander anyone if I'm telling the truth. Okay, so respect. In this particular passage here, I'm talking about the late great Dr. Moses Powell, founder of the Sanukis rule system. God rest his soul. Back in the early 80s, I first saw him, Dr. Powell, on film at the time, doing his spectacular Sanukis rule rollouts and jiu-jitsu techniques. One of his instructors was Florendo Station, and his Institute of Survival still does continue today. I believe it's in New York still, which is where he taught mainly, New York. And as I said, I had a great respect for Grandmaster Dr. Moses Powell, and I still to this very day have that same respect. So just simply cutting to the chase, there was something that he said in the video that was striking to me. And he said someone asked him about teaching karate, and he responded to them that he doesn't teach karate. He teaches martial arts. Wow. A light bulb went off in my head, illuminating my person as that same individual, same kindred spirit, if you will, a martial artist. We can say that because I teach this particular discipline, karate, and whatever the style or system is, or kung fu, whatever the style or system is, or judo, jiu-jitsu, whatever the school is or the rule, and bondo, or boxing even, or pinjat salat, krav maga, whatever, and we can call that martial arts. But when I use the term martial arts, I'm not confined to one thing, because I've been exposed to many things. So when Dr. Powell made that statement that I don't teach karate, I teach martial arts, that's me as well. We're not the only ones that fall in that particular trend and or grain. I believe, as Bruce Lee did as well, and as Ron Van Cleef does as well, every art has its benefit if you know how to make the differentiation. Aikido is different than Aikijitsu, is different than Judo, is different than Tong Sudo, is different than Bondo, as I pointed out earlier, is different than Balink the Watt. is different than whatever. Tai Chi, Chuan, Bagua, Zingi. They're all different, but they all have something valuable that we can learn from. The problem has been over several decades is that there are people who are stuck in their system or their style and they can't come out. Is it a personal thing? Some instances, yes. They've been programmed, many of them, that they can't come outside their box because this is all they know is this particular karate style or this particular kung fu system. That's all they know, and that's all they want to know because that's where they have spent an inordinate amount of time, and they just can't seem to release themselves from their bondage. And that's what it really is. I understand, I comprehend, I understand that you love what you do and you've done it long enough and you may have even obtained significant rank in that style or system. But where does your system leave room for the person? Ask yourself that question. And when Dr. Moses Powell, God rest his soul again, made the statement that I don't teach karate, I teach martial arts, because he went down to say he's done kempo, judo, jiu-jitsu, and so on. I love that because he did not limit himself. Bruce Lee didn't limit himself. Brother Teacher doesn't limit himself. I'm fortunate to have studied more than one discipline. But again, there are people who have been married so long to one particular style they can't see anyone else's value in the martial arts. And that's a cancer. I remember, and I've told my students this in time past, some of them, I was at a martial arts tournament and I ran a form, a Zui Kwan or drunken form, and the people who were judging were all karate people. Any other tournament that I had competed in that was open, it would be karate, Korean martial arts masters and black belts, and kung fu. And they knew me, and they knew my system, and they were open-minded and not locked in the box where all they knew was their own style. But what I'm getting at is this: I would normally win in the top 3 competitors. It could be 10 competitors. I was in the top 3 most of the time. Oftentimes I was first place and then grand champion as well, running the drunken form. So I would get very high scores, even standing ovations. This is not bragging, this is the truth. And so with all these karateka sitting on the judging panel of someone who's doing something Chinese, very much Chinese, myself, something that they were not familiar with, some of them, everybody scored me high for the most part except this one individual. He walked up to me and said, the reason I didn't score you higher was because I didn't know what you were doing. And his vote could have made the difference between me winning or placing and not placing. And I scored low. And other competitors were above me in this particular instance. And I didn't argue. I didn't debate with him. I took it for face value that this person had limited themselves to only what they knew. In this particular instance, this person was a Tong Sudo master. And I've studied Tong Sudo, Kung Fu Jiu-Jitsu, and so forth. But I didn't appreciate that. So I just embraced what he said as an experience. And I understand now. I understood then. It takes something. It takes a heck of an individual to study more than one system or style, as some might say, and to eclectically blend them to work for you, the individual. Instead of thinking that you're going to go to a meet, a tournament where everyone is doing the same thing and they judge one another according to the same standards. But when someone else that's uniquely different than you, even though the audience recognizes, but some of the guys and women that are entrenched in their own style and their ignorance are not willing to step outside their box, causing you, the competitor, to suffer. That's not fair at all. And I commend Dr. Moses Powell of the Snookish Rule System. And I could commend anyone else who is an innovator of martial arts. Of course, Bruce Lee, he was one of those, with Jeet Kune Do as well. And some of these traditional heads still don't want to give Bruce Lee the credit that he deserves because they were afraid to step outside of their comfort zone of tradition that they held so many years. And because he did something that was so unique, so uniquely different, and they didn't comprehend what he was doing, but they realized that he garnered millions of followers behind his innovation, behind his skill, because they were not there. Just because you don't understand something doesn't mean that it's not valid. You just simply don't understand it. And what's crazy is that as time progressed, people began to latch on to what Bruce Lee did, and people like myself do, and what Moses Powell did, and various other innovators, if you will, in the martial arts. They catch on later and they realize, and they start copying, because they had a quiet respect for you through their jealousy. But they were jealous and or envious of you simply because they couldn't do what you did. They didn't have the ability to do what you did, or the insight and or knowledge to do what you did or do. That's a shame. You see, some of these older guys, these older heads in these traditional martial arts systems die ignorant. They're good and excellent in their own right as to what they do. But the world is evolving. The world changes. You have to. You must learn to change with the times. And it's amazing that when many of these guys get older, they leave their hard karate systems, a lot of them, and go to something easier to perform, such as Tai Chi Chuan. That's what they do. I've seen it happen too many times, because all of this hard system and blocks and punching walls and trees and so forth, and calluses on your knuckles and so forth. When you get to a certain age and you can't do that anymore, what do you have left? But if you understood at the outset the value of everyone's system outside of your own, you wouldn't have those problems as you have aged. I know I'm talking good right now. You see, I had the best of hard and soft coming up. And I know how it works. I know how to blend. Everyone can't do that. When people like myself are gone, I say it again, people like myself are gone, you're going to have the ground and pound MMA stuff that you see nowadays, where the guys have no respect for martial arts. Most of them, not all. That's all you're going to be left with, are the memories of those who really knew the thing. That's it. Hats off to Grandmaster Dr. Moses Powell and other pioneers who understood. This is Brother Teacher Grandmaster Stroud. Have a great day. So long.